The psychological trap of confusion and why clarity feels so unnatural. I am Zayd Haji, and today I want to speak to you in a way that may feel slightly uncomfortable, because the truth about confusion is not something we casually accept. It is something we defend, justify, and even hide behind. This episode is not about giving you answers. It is about exposing the patterns in your thinking that are quietly shaping your life without your awareness. Let me start with something that most people never articulate clearly, even though they feel it every day. The modern world has not made decision making easier. It has made indecision more sophisticated. You are not stuck because you lack direction. You are stuck because every direction looks equally possible, equally attractive, and equally dangerous at the same time. This creates a mental state where you are constantly thinking, but rarely deciding. And over time, this thinking starts to feel like progress, even though nothing is actually moving in your life. What makes this situation more dangerous is that confusion today does not feel like failure. It feels like awareness. You tell yourself that you are exploring, that you are keeping your options open, that you are being smart by not committing too early. But if you observe closely, you will notice that this so-called exploration rarely produces depth. It produces scattered knowledge, shallow skills, and a fragile sense of identity that changes depending on what you consumed last on your screen. I want you to reflect on something very honestly. When was the last time you committed to something long enough to see its ugly side? Because everything feels exciting in the beginning. Every career path looks attractive from a distance. Every opportunity seems life-changing when you have not experienced its reality. The problem is not that you are choosing the wrong things. The problem is that you are not staying long enough to understand anything deeply. This is where confusion transforms from a temporary phase into a permanent habit. You begin to associate discomfort with wrong decisions and excitement with the right ones. So the moment something becomes difficult, repetitive, or uncertain, you quietly detach and look for something new that gives you that initial spark again. Over time, you are not building a life. You are collecting beginnings without ever reaching meaningful outcomes. Let me challenge another belief that operates silently in your mind. The idea that more options give you control. In reality, more options without structure reduce your ability to act. Because every time you try to focus on one path, your mind reminds you of the other paths you are not choosing. This creates a constant background noise that weakens your commitment. You are physically present in one direction, but mentally divided across many. This division has consequences that are not immediately visible but deeply impactful. Your energy becomes diluted, your efforts become inconsistent, and your results become unpredictable. And because the results are weak, you start doubting your ability rather than questioning your lack of focus. This is how confusion slowly erodes confidence without you realizing it. Now let me bring you to something even more uncomfortable. Many people are not confused because they lack clarity. They are confused because clarity demands sacrifice. The moment you choose one path, you must let go of many others. And letting go feels like loss, even if those other paths were never realistically yours to begin with. So instead of facing that emotional discomfort, you keep all doors slightly open, convincing yourself that you are being flexible when in reality you are being avoidant. This is why the concept of optionality feels so attractive. It gives you the illusion that you are not limiting yourself. But what you fail to see is that optionality without commitment prevents you from building anything meaningful. Because every meaningful outcome in life requires sustained effort in one direction, not occasional effort in many. Think about this from a ground reality perspective. A student who tries to prepare for multiple career paths simultaneously often ends up being average in all of them. A freelancer who keeps switching niches never builds a strong reputation. A professional who constantly looks for the next opportunity never develops mastery in the current one. In all these cases, the problem is not lack of talent. It is lack of sustained focus. What makes this even more complex is the influence of the environment you are living in. Social media does not just show you opportunities, it shows you outcomes without context. You see someone succeeding in a field without seeing the years of struggle behind it. You see someone making money in a way that looks easy without understanding the risk, inconsistency, and hidden effort involved. This creates a distorted perception where every path seems faster and better than the one you are currently on. As a result, your mind starts operating in a loop of comparison and doubt. You question your current path not because it is wrong, but because something else looks more exciting in the moment. And this constant switching prevents you from experiencing the one thing that actually builds confidence and success, which is compounding. Compounding is not just a financial concept. It applies to skills, relationships, reputation, and opportunities. When you stay consistent in one direction, your efforts start building on each other. Your understanding deepens, your network strengthens, and your value increases in a way that cannot happen through scattered effort. But compounding requires time, and time requires commitment, and commitment requires clarity. This brings us to a critical shift in thinking that most people never make. Clarity is not something you discover. It is something you create through decisions. You do not wait until you feel certain. You act based on what makes sense now, and you refine your understanding as you move forward. This is why people who take action often appear more confident, not because they know more, but because they are learning faster through real experience. Another important distinction you need to understand is the difference between reversible and irreversible decisions. Not every decision deserves the same level of overthinking, but this avoidance has a long-term cost. It delays your growth, weakens your identity, and prevents you from building anything that truly belongs to you. Because ownership only comes from commitment, and commitment only comes from decision. So what is the way forward? You start by simplifying your approach. Instead of asking what are all the things you can do, you ask what is the one thing that, if done well, will make other things easier or unnecessary. This question forces you to prioritize, to eliminate distractions, and to focus your energy where it matters most. You also need to create boundaries around your curiosity. Exploration is important, but it must be time-bound. If you want to explore a field, give it a fixed period, engage with it seriously, and then make a decision. Do not allow endless exploration to become a substitute for commitment. At the same time, you must accept that no decision will feel perfect. There will always be uncertainty, always be doubt, and always be alternatives that look appealing. But the goal is not to eliminate uncertainty. The goal is to move forward despite it. Because in the end, the person who decides and commits will always have an advantage over the person who keeps thinking and waiting. Not because they are smarter, but because they are building momentum while others are still analyzing possibilities. Now I want to bring this conversation to a deeper level, one that goes beyond logic and strategy. In Islam, confusion is not something we are meant to live in indefinitely. We are guided towards clarity through intention, action, and trust in Allah. The Quran reminds us and says, "Do as you will, for Allah will see your deeds, and so will His Messenger and the believers." Surah At-Tawbah chapter 9 verse 105. This verse is not asking you to wait until you are certain. It is asking you to act knowing that your actions are seen and carry weight. At the same time, Allah teaches us reliance after decision, and when you have decided, then rely upon Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who rely upon Him. Surah Al-Imran chapter 3 verse 159. This shows a powerful principle. You are not required to know the outcome before acting. You are required to make a sincere decision and then trust Allah with what follows. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, also said, "The strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, while there is good in both." Be eager for what benefits you, seek help from Allah, and do not feel helpless. Sahih Muslim 2664. Notice how this hadith connects effort with reliance. You are told to pursue what benefits you, to seek Allah's help, and to avoid falling into helplessness. Confusion, when prolonged, becomes a form of helplessness, and Islam calls you out of that state. So I want to leave you with this thought. Your life will not change when you find perfect clarity. It will change when you make a decision with sincerity, act with discipline, and trust Allah with humility. Because in the end, clarity is not about knowing everything. It is about having the courage to move forward with faith, even when you do not. This is Zayd Haji, and if something in this episode unsettled you, then take that seriously. Because discomfort is often the beginning of awareness, and awareness, if acted upon, becomes transformation.